Today I'm joined by DJ Impact, Simon Street, and the one and only Shara. Shara.
Shara? Shara?
How did you mess that up, Matt Michaels?
I can't say one of the simplest words. I give you shit about messing up names. I can't say Sarah.
Say it slowly.
You'd think I was the fucking president and my teeth were slipping in and out of my mouth. So Matt Michaels here with DJ Impact, Simon Street, and the one and only Sarah Rochelle Bane. Sarah, how you doing?
I'm good. It's finally not 105 here, so I am enjoying being outside today.
Well, that's good to hear. Here in Vegas, about 112, I think.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was brutal yesterday and today's. And the winds are starting up. So now...
No, it's been windy here. Today it actually died down a little bit, but yesterday was wild.
Yeah, we've gotten major dust storms and only certain areas get hit every once in a while. It's crazy. The weather is getting crazy. But I guess outside of weather, I guess, one of the things that people might not know about you, if they haven't followed your Instagram, followed your Twitter, they might not know that you are a suicide girl, and they also might know that you are an advocate for Black Lives Matter, equality, and all the important messages that are going on right now.
100%. Not currently a suicide girl. I was a suicide girl back until about 2007. I currently do my own thing though, and I have an OnlyFans, and I model. I've been on a couple covers recently for different publications. So yeah, definitely active in that area. But yeah, activism is something that I wasn't always involved in. I was an asshole for a long time. I grew up Republican and Catholic. So
wow.
Yeah, so it took a lot of years to kind of unlearn everything that I had kind of been taught by the society that I was raised in. And now I feel like I'm not making up for it, but I definitely am trying my hardest to be an ally and to step up where I can and use my platform to help people that don't have that platform.
And when you're seeing, you're a huge wrestling fan as well. When you're seeing some of the movement that's been going on with speaking out, what are your thoughts when I hate to even say fans, but when people read the tweets and they see the hashtags and then they just start in about how, well, that wrestler never did that. How could he possibly have done that? He's a good guy. You're just making this shit up. How do you feel?
It's a great question, because I actually have been considering making a video about this, just because the best way to put it is that sexual assault. Oh, sorry, I was getting a phone call. The best way to put it is that sexual assault and rape doesn't always look like it does in the movies. It doesn't look like it does on Law and Order. It doesn't look anything like that. So I was speaking with a couple of my friends recently because I tweeted that men are trash. And I had some guy friends and some, a couple of people that you guys actually know come to me and say, how could you say that? That actually kind of turns me off to your whole platform when you say that men are trash. And I had to explain, I haven't actually told this story on video ever. I've told it in text a lot, but so I have been a victim of sexual assault, of domestic abuse. I lost my virginity when I was 15 by being raped by my boyfriend, who told me he loved me. I think that as women, from a very, very young age, from the very beginning, we're sexualized or taught to be sexualized. You may be 7 or 8 and your uncle or a family friend notices that your legs are getting longer, or you hit puberty and someone notices that you're developing and they make comments. And so I think that it's hard to see the comments online because I feel like a lot of men don't know the women's side of things. I feel like a lot of people, not even just men, but I feel like a lot of people, if they haven't experienced it themselves, they expect they expect sexual assault, rape, all of these things to be this like horrible, like violent, aggressive situation that you're in. And when I lost my virginity, I was at my boyfriend's house and we were messing around, and a lot of people would put the blame on me because I was already in that situation with him. But we were messing around and I said no. I wasn't comfortable going further. It went farther. His dad was in the next room making spaghetti for us, and I didn't even realize it was rape until maybe 6 to 8 months later. And he had moved away. We had broken up, and I reached out to him and I let him know. I was 15 and I emailed him and was like, what you did wasn't right. I had said no and you did it anyway. And I'm struggling with all these feelings because you told me you loved me afterwards. And if that's what love looks like, I don't want it. You know what I mean? It totally skews your view of everything. So I think it's really important for people to remember when they're reading these experiences that people's stories aren't all the same. And I mean, if you're in a bar and you're out drinking and someone grabs your ass without your consent, it's sexual assault. And I think it's really important for people to just remember that not all stories are the same. Not all assaults are the same. Not everyone's experiences are going to be the same in this situation. And so reading all these stories, some of them may seem more extreme than others. But they're all equal in that there wasn't consent. People weren't of age to even be giving consent. People were under the influence and couldn't give consent. And I just think it's really important to take every story as its own story and not be comparing and contrasting, even just for the sake of the victims, because I wouldn't want my story compared to someone else's story and saying, oh, well, you didn't have it as bad as someone. But the trauma that I experienced and the PTSD that I could experience from that could be the same as what someone else experienced. But all really depends on you personally and how you process it and grow from it at that point. So it's just, it's really crazy what's going on in the wrestling industry right now. And I really, as a fan, I have been let down by some of the people that I thought weren't capable of these things. But I think that it's an important conversation to be had. I really am impressed with the way that some different promotions are listening and striving to create new positions for people to kind of address the ethics and the morals of the companies. I'm really interested to see where it goes because there's still a lot more that can be done. And I hope that people continue speaking out. I hope that, victims continue to be brave because it's not easy. Like right now, telling you guys that I've been sexually assaulted and raped and that I was abused by an ex physically. It's not easy to say those words out loud. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you for asking that question because I do think that it's an important discussion to have. And I'm glad that it's a discussion that's being had.
Well, Sarah, I'm pretty sure the rest of the guys will also say, we commend you on your courage to be able to share that with us. I mean, that's never an easy thing at all. The question I do want to ask is, you had mentioned about your ex-boyfriend that you had way back then, and this happened to you. Do you see in situations to where even though something that was taken from you, which obviously we can't wait at all because like you said, it's your own personal experience and how you felt about it and how it's hurt you. Do you feel that in situations to where on the other end, the individual that did do this to you, do you think in those scenarios, you think some of those people can be educated, rehabilitated, and can move forward to educate other people before they make those? And again, I'm not trying to make light of what he did.
No, I like this question too. I do think that there is some level of rehabilitation that can happen. I do think it's a case-by-case basis. Like I did say, I emailed him and reached out to him after the fact and let him know. And he responded back very apologetic. I was able to forgive him. Does that change the fact that he did it? Does that change the fact that he is a rapist? No. Can he take that moving forward and realize that women are not his property to do what he wants with? You know what I mean? Can he take that and grow from it? Absolutely. But that's on him at that point. That's not on the victim.
Of course.
That's not on anyone else. That's on them. I think with a lot of these, I do agree with people being made an example of, because in the past, there have been situations like this in big, productions and big promotions. And a lot of times people get a slap on the wrist, or it's not discussed, it's swept under the rug. And I think that it's very important to create a safer space. So I think by making an example, it's really hard, because I always want to believe abusers. I understand that there comes the responsibility of the promotion or production to find proof and to investigate those situations. So I do understand that there's like trickiness with that. But if the proof is there, I 100% believe that there should, I mean, it sucks to say make an example of them, because that sounds really harsh, but how is anyone going to learn if there's no consequences? Women are so afraid to speak out because there's not consequences. If you look at Brock Turner, I don't know if you guys were familiar with that case, but he was the kid who was attending an Ivy League school, raped a woman. He got a slap on the wrist, and they kept saying, oh, but his career, oh, but what about his life? And it's like, yeah, but what about the victim's life that he changed forever by raping her, you know? So it's like, I think that if an example is made, then people will be more thoughtful before making those dumb decisions and hurting someone and taking something from someone. And I just really think that people need to be much more mindful of what they're doing. And I mean, honestly, it was some of these situations where it was directly an assault, where it was violent, where it was aggressive, where it was manipulative. Like, fuck those guys. Fuck those women if they were the abusers too. Like, absolutely make an example of them. I don't know that on certain people who are repeat offenders, I don't know that there's a chance for rehabilitation at that point. That seems like it's much more of a mental health issue at that point, some sort of deeper psychological issue. And I think in our country in general, this is a whole different subject, but I think our country has a major mental health problem.
Absolutely.
And I think that if that was addressed, I think we would have a much better situation with offenders on this level. I think we would also have a much better situation with homelessness. I think if people who were going into the police force or any sort of military, I think if the mental health for them was better, which is insane that it's not better, because these are the people that are supposed to be protecting and serving our country. And if they're off their fucking rockers, like, how can you expect anyone else to be in line? You know what I mean? Or to be mentally sound. It's just, I think that mental health is a huge, huge problem in our country. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but in America, if we address mental health, make it more accessible, make it more available, and make people like destigmatize it and make it people feel like it's okay to say that you're having issues, you're having trouble, you're having anxiety, you're having depression. I think that would help immensely with so many of the other issues. I mean, there has to be deep-rooted issues as to why people are committing these crimes and why they're doing these things. And that does not excuse the crimes. But I think as a preventative thing, that could help immensely. So back to your initial question, do I think rehabilitation is possible? On some level, yes, but I really 100% believe that it's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think a lot of it too is being able to own up to it. Accountability is not, accountability isn't just saying it once, hey, this happened, I'm sorry. You got to live with it. And absolutely. I think a lot of times when you do pay the price and you do go, whether it's to the court system, charges, prison time, whatever the case may be, and you've done that, I think you should continue to, enroll yourself in speaking out, even on the flip side for men, teaching younger males. This is what I did. I have to live with this for the rest of my life. And by not reaching out to younger boys, because a lot of it, unfortunately, I'll be honest with you, and it's sad, a lot of it is culture. And that's the scary thing about it, because like you said before, sexualizing women at a young age. There's so many cultures to where that's just a casual thing that's said. And at the end of the day, you're setting up young boys to not look at women as more than just their looks. You're teaching them how to objectify, and they're innocently doing it, at younger ages, and it just develops, and it's too normalized. So,
well, it's wild to me that you'll be a first grader and you're wearing a spaghetti strap shirt and shorts, and a teacher tells you that's inappropriate. And it's like, how is it inappropriate? These other little boys just know that it's hot out, and I'm wearing a spaghetti strap shirt because I don't want to be sweaty. But it's the adults that are sexualizing the children and passing that off on the little boys. You know what I mean? Like, girls can't wear this because it's inappropriate. Why is it inappropriate? It's inappropriate because you see it as inappropriate. So yeah, it really is a whole cultural society issue. Accountability is huge. I think, and there have been some wrestlers that have been called out and accused that have admitted it and are taking the steps to better themselves. And we'll see where that goes. But I know I had to admit, so when I was in an abusive relationship for a long time. And when I was in that relationship, I was extremely sexist. And I personally wasn't racist, but my boyfriend at the time was, and said a lot of things that I let slide. And I've been honest about it. I am not that person anymore. I'm embarrassed of the person that I was when I was dating him. And like, I used to say shit like, he would be like, where do women belong? And I'd be like, I belong in the kitchen making you a sandwich. Like it was awful. I used to say the dumbest shit, but I was also, I was 20, 21, and it's so sad that I was like that. But like I said, I've owned up to it. I have been doing as much as I can to unlearn behaviors and things that, that I picked up even from, like I said, being raised in Catholic school. And so it's just like, I definitely think accountability, holding yourself accountable, is a huge, huge aspect of it. So.
Yeah, but one of the biggest problems with holding yourself accountable is the fact that in our society, white males have been protected by white males for so long.
Forever.
Yeah, that systematically, that's what needs to really start changing. One of the worst parts about this is, for instance, you said 15 years old. By the time that you start realizing what happened to you, by the time you're able to acknowledge it, by the time you reach out, the thing is that you're afraid to speak up. And now, how much has that person influenced other women around them? And that's the problem. The problem is that they get put in a box, basically, that allows them to think that this behavior is okay, because even if they get to a point where, like you said, the guy who got basically a slap on his wrist, because of the fact, what about their future? And what happens when that pattern becomes, you see, like, for instance, Joey Ryan. The whole thing with Joey is that if one person comes out, you can be skeptical at least and go, okay, it's a he said, she said at that point. And then you see 2, 3, 4.
I think it's up to like 15, 16, 17 now.
Yeah, it's somewhere around 17. And the problem is that you think about what just happened is that luckily the solidarity kicked in, and all these women were able to comfortably start coming forward. But if it would have sat at, let's say, 4, then you have all these people who are just going to rush to defend on the basis of, well, that person just saw the first one. And now they're just copycatting and saying this because they want attention. So basically, the concept in the mind of American men is, you're only coming forward because you want attention.
But no, there hasn't been the comfort.
Yeah.
Women don't feel safe.
No.
They don't feel safe coming forward. It's not even a bravery thing. It's that if I speak up, my life could be at risk. We are, like you said, white males are so much more protected than even white women are. And it's, so another quick story. I recently posted about it. I was assaulted in 2013 for turning a guy down at a bar. It escalated to the point where he broke a cocktail glass into my face. I had 28 stitches in my face and 9 in my chest. It was a lot. And I was brave enough, there's that word, brave enough, to press charges. The DA pressed charges. And it took 5 years to go to trial and get him sentenced and convicted. In that time, those 5 years, I was able to meet my husband. I was able to get pregnant. And that's a long time. That is a really long time. So it's not only that the woman has to be brave to say this happened, it's that they also have to be strong enough to ride it out and make sure that the justice system does what it's supposed to about it. There were so many times, so it's all public record now because it's done. But during it, the man who assaulted me put a hit out on me and on the DA. And I had to go into hiding for 8 months. Witness protection showed up at my work, and I had the option to go into witness protection or to change my routine and literally just go into hiding. I had to deactivate all social media. I was a model. I was a plus size model at the time. And it's like, I had to just stop everything. I had to stop tattooing. I ended up working for my family's company. And those are the things you don't see when people say, well, why are women scared to speak up? Why don't more women come forward? And it's like, I had this man who already traumatized me, permanently scarred my face and chest, called me all sorts of names. I not only had to call him out, but now I have to, like, he's threatening to kill me. He's trying to have me killed by other people because I spoke out, because I was honest, because I'm trying to make sure that he can't do this to someone else. And it's just, I wish people could see more of that side of things and see what women go through when they are honest about it, because our justice system is innocent until proven guilty. And I understand that and I respect it. But there were so many times during the 5 years where I had to talk to my husband and my parents and say, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I don't know how much longer I can stand there and speak my truth to be torn down. I mean, in trial, they attacked my character. They attacked my history. They attacked the fact that I, have posted promiscuous photos online, and they attacked my mental health because I had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I have anxiety, a generalized anxiety disorder. They attacked all of that. They bring up everything they can to try to prove that you are lying or you are wrong or that you deserved it. And when I was telling my story throughout those 5 years, I had 6 other women come forward to me that were not willing to be brave, were not willing to go on the record, but that told me that they had had similar situations. I had women that were sexually assaulted by him. I had women that were physically abused by him. And luckily this was his 3rd strike and he's in prison for life now. He was just appealing it. The appeal was denied, but the 2 additional 5-year sentences that the judge added onto it for his priors, he's able to appeal those. So I get to go back to court in the next 3 to 6 months to state why I believe he needs to have his full sentence. So it's like, people don't realize that when women speak up and are honest, and are honest about these things and want something done about it, it's not just they give their statement and then the guy gets in trouble.
Mhm.
It's taxing. It is trying. It puts you through the ringer. And I'm not going to say I'm lucky, but I'm glad on so many different levels that it happened to me and not someone who doesn't have the strength that I do, so that he could be put away. And I feel so much for all these women speaking out that are being called liars or being torn apart on social media. Sorry, I'm getting emotional, but because I know how hard it is to speak your truth and to follow through with it. It's so wild to me. It's almost like, it's not triggering. I hate that word, even though it's a valid word, but it is almost triggering in a way to like see all this happening on social media and being watching some of these women who I've become friends with or acquaintances with through the wrestling community, watch them being torn apart because I went through it too. And it's just like, I think back to what you were saying about white men being protected and protecting each other. They don't want to own up to the fact that they can be these monsters, that they can be doing it. And that goes back to what I said in the beginning. Rape and sexual assault you aren't a monster in the beginning. You aren't always the monster when you start. Your actions make you the monster. And like, look at like Ted Bundy. He was a charming, I mean, I don't think he was attractive, but like people thought he was an attractive, charming man, and he was this fucking sociopath. So it's like, it's a scary world out there being a woman at times. And I know it happens to men too. I know that Keith Lee put his story out there, and I am so proud of him and so thankful that he spoke out too, because men do experience this as well. And that needs to be talked about as well, because I know that there's a huge stigma around that as well. And I think that a lot of the time too is from other men not wanting to admit that they could have been that vulnerable. And those walls need to be broken down too. But I think, like I said, it all goes back to the big mental health bubble. 100%. Sorry, I just keep going on tangents, but I have a lot of feelings about all of this.
Yeah.
So
what's a good opportunity for you to, tell your story and to express yourself? This is definitely a safe place. And
I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to tell my story, because like I said, women need to know that they're not alone and that it does happen to everyone.
Yeah. I went through it myself when I was a kid. It's something that, and the pisser about it is the fact that in the case of wrestling, it relates my mind to what I went through, and that was having someone who was an adult use the fact that I had ambitions as an actor as a kid to wrangle me into taking photographs. And they played off the vulnerability of not knowing the fact that that would be something that isn't common, isn't right. You shouldn't be asked, take your pants off when you're taking photographs.
Yeah.
But it's that idea of I'm trying to, as a kid, achieve something for myself. And I think what happens in the case of wrestling is that if you're young, and most of the girls are anywhere between underage and let's say 25, that time frame when you're trying to break into something that has always traditionally been looked at as something that is a good old boys network,
male sport.
And so when you're doing things, you're just trying to do what you think is part of the business. And get yourself, you don't want to piss people off. That's it. You're walking on eggshells, and you might have also, unfortunately, been trained by someone who is maybe not a sexual abuser, but an abuser nonetheless. And so maybe you already might not be confident about yourself. And now you're trained by someone who's put you down, essentially. You're just trying to, trying to navigate the waters in, let's say, a small town. Let's say you're in, somewhere in North Carolina.
You don't have any other options. That's how
Yeah.
you get into business, or there's nothing. It's
Mhm.
like Weinstein. It's people using their power and their positions to prey on people who don't know any better. And I think that educating kids and educating, I think that, yeah, definitely educating your children and like making it known that they can educate their friends is a huge thing.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, I'm so sorry that you experienced that, when you were younger. It fucks you up and it shapes you in a way that you didn't want to be shaped.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because these people trying to enter these industries, like you said, they don't know that that's not part of it.
Mhm.
They don't understand that that's, and they'll do anything. They're so passionate about their dreams, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to be a star, to be, noticed, to stand out. And it's like, it's so hard because, like, even if you don't think it's wrong at the time and you're like, fuck it, I'll suck this guy's dick if that's what I have to do to get to XYZ, like, you're still being taken advantage of. Yes, you agreed to do that, but like, it wasn't appropriate for that person in the first place to put you in that position for you to agree to do it. And that's a big issue too, is that, stop blaming the victims for their decisions when it wasn't their decision to be put in that position in the first place. So I'm so sorry that you went through that. And I think that this discussion, and the speaking out movement, I think that is going to fuck up a lot of that for these people that are pulling that shit, because people are going to be privy to it ahead of time. They're going to know, like, that's not cool. That's not how this goes. Like, I can find someone else to train me, someone else to work with. And if that's what it takes, I'm not going to do it.
And one of the biggest things about that too is, like, in my case, this person was actually technically a stranger, but he was around another friend of mine who was a bit older. So even that friend wasn't protective of us.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is that person was a stranger. The reason that you feel comfortable is because your friend's like, oh no, this person, oh, and so I know him, right? Now think about, you take a person that you see either locally at, independent events, or is someone who's on TV. Now you're in a weird position because you think that you know that person a little bit, even because you've seen a character that they've presented. And the fact of the matter is that if someone like Kane, full mask and everything, gets in your car, you're going to be a little more, hey, that dude looks nasty and evil and whatnot. But if you have charming people, if you have people like Joey, who this was his whole gimmick, the dick flip. So it's, again, it's like people say, well, you know what you're getting then. Because look, this guy, obviously he wants people to touch his dick. And it's like, no, you don't get that. That's that particular character. And you are not saying this is okay.
100%.
And that's the sad thing, is that people defend celebrities, but at the same time, if you were in that position, you might have done the same thing because you trusted that person, because you thought you knew them from what they portrayed.
Because they were a celebrity. Yeah. Because you 100%. I think that what you mentioned, that someone you kind of knew, or someone that you knew had also worked with this stranger. People need to stop being complacent, and people need to stop not condoning behaviors of people that they know, but
abetting. They're enabling.
Thank you. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? if you know something is happening that's not okay, if you hear your friend say something, if you hear your friend make a rape joke, like Sammy did, if you guys were doing a podcast and someone said something like that, you guys would be like, what the fuck? Hold the fuck on. Like, that's not cool. More people need to say something like that. Stop it. Put an end to it right there. It's allowing, I understand that when people say things like that, you may be uncomfortable and be like, like, oh, that was weird. Like, but no, say something right then. Like, I had to address some people close to me recently because they were speaking about, Black Lives Matter in a way that they were all lives mattering, and I fucking lost my cool on them, and it's gotten to the point where I don't care if I'm alienating myself because I have to have integrity. And I think more people need to have that integrity and even understand what integrity is. Because I think there's so many people that just turn a blind eye to it because they don't want to get involved or they don't know how to get involved. When it's really, it can be as simple as saying, like, I see that you're doing this. It's not cool. I'm done with you. Or, like, we need to address this. Maybe the person, it's the first time you've heard them saying that, sit down with them, say, can we have a talk about this? Because you said XYZ, it made me uncomfortable. And I think you're making other people uncomfortable with this as well. I think that, that people, I think integrity needs to be a much more taught and trendy thing.
You're exactly right with that. I will share something with y'all. I started to change and observe the way the world was differently after enrolling in college as a freshman and taking my first sociology class. It was something that was not offered in high school, obviously, at least where I went to school at. And it changed so much of how I look at integrity, ethics, and morality. Something that was never taught. And much like you, I grew up in a Catholic home. And that's a whole nother subject about how that structure is set up and we won't even go there. But I will tell you, the one great thing that I found about sociology is taboos and norms and how the perception of us as people shapes that and how we make its decisions. And when it comes to decisions of ethics, because ethics and morality are two different things.
100%.
People think they're the same thing. They're not, because a lot of businesses may think it's unethical for, let's just say Susie, who's coming out about one of our lead directors who makes us lots of money. Do you see what I'm saying? It's unethical for us to take a chance on what she's saying and immediately do something. And that was the scene for many, many years, especially in Hollywood. Oh my gosh. But when you start looking at the morality of it, what is the morality of the company? What is the morality of the individuals? To say, regardless of what we think to be ethical or not, this is the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that sociology also taught me to look throughout history. And I'll give one quick example. You've probably seen on so many different shows, whatnot. There was a man who was on a game show back in like probably the late 70s, early 80s. And he had little girls on there and he would kiss them on the lips. He'd always go and it's been on so many different shows that we've seen. I can't remember the name of the show, but he would say,
Feud.
What was it?
Family Feud.
Was it Family? Okay, maybe it was Family Feud, yeah. And he would go and kiss these little girls. Even you can see where consent was not even given just by the mannerisms in these girls' face. Where you could clearly see they were uncomfortable. That was normal. So look at that picture. And again, like I'm going to say, what's not being taught in schools, the important classes, sociology, taboos and norms, boundaries, consent. These should be normal things that are taught, not just in your family unit, but on a public level.
100.
And it's not. And so we allowed back in those days for that to take place. Imagine how many people were victimized with that paradigm or that setup that was there set in place. And, it's things to where I've had conversations with my own father and, not that he raised me to be a horrible person, but there are a lot of things that him growing up, the way he viewed women at the time, he's gotten better now. I will admit that. But back then he was like, hey, a woman being your boss, you got to watch out because they're going to make emotional decisions. And that's not always the case. I know more males that I've worked for that have made way more emotional decisions than women, you know, and that's just my personal experience. So I think that we need to start looking at the way we change. The new norm now is that everybody should be safe. The new norm now should be that everybody should speak out if something's wrong. We need to just totally let that other shit that happened back in the day, that needs to go to Jurassic Park and die.
It does. It does. And imagine all the people who watch that show or other shows, like even Married with Children. You know what I mean? Like you see these classic American households and families and you think that that's the way things are supposed to be. And then you grow up and realize that you're not happy with that ideal, or that you realize that that shit's not cool. Like, yeah, times have changed so much since back then. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm thankful that we can have discussions like this, you know, to hopefully draw more awareness to it. So other people are thinking and watching this and going, ooh, integrity. Like maybe people haven't heard that word before. I don't know. Like I've been working with our 12-year-old on teaching him what integrity is, because it's so important that that people have that. I feel like it's a really outdated, not even outdated because it wasn't back then, but I feel like it's not an important thing on people's radars when they're teaching their kids or raising their kids. It's crazy. What you were saying too about consent and trying to think of how exactly you said it. I experience a lot. So I'm a model and I take promiscuous pictures. And I don't think you would be surprised, but so many people think that because I'm a model, because I take promiscuous pictures, they can do things like send me dick pics or try to grope me if I'm out at a bar, or they make assumptions that I'm not faithful to my husband or that I'm just a fair game. And I think that is so wild to me, because just because I look one way, just because like I don't like to wear bras, I like to wear revealing clothing, like fuck it. But just because that's the way I dress doesn't mean that I am accessible to everyone. And I think that's an important thing to remember just in general, is that just because someone looks a certain way or acts a certain way in character or not in character, that may not be how they are in general. So just making assumptions on people's morals and ethics based on even appearance or a character that they portray is a huge thing to keep in mind.
Well, and you've just mentioned a really good thing that people don't really even think about, and that is revealing clothing. Well, how do you deal with that in some religions? You have strict clothing requirements.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, even through religion, it was set up that women are temptation to men. And
for the sexual suppression.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is fucking ridiculous. Unbelievable. DJ Impact, you've been kind of quiet. What's on your mind, man?
I'm actually just enjoying the conversation, because I knew when I first met Sarah a few weeks ago through our Zoom chat with all of our buddies, that she had quite a story to tell. And and you know what, for me, because this has been just centered on the speaking out movement and a lot of other topics that has been happening, I kind of just want to stick to this. My questions I'll mostly hold back, definitely, because we're gonna have Sarah. We gotta have you back on, and I'm talking maybe within a week or two.
I would love that.
Because your story even goes beyond when it talks about wrestling, and that's definitely one of the topics I have a lot for you on here. But I
got a lot to say about wrestling too.
Yeah, and I don't want to add it to this, just because it's this right now. I think this should just be centered on what it's centered on right now. And I could tell you one of the things that I'm really impressed and I'm happy to hear, and especially when it comes to the Black Lives Matter movement, is that you went about your best trying to educate yourself on understanding what it is that's being said. you'll be surprised how many people that I try to have this conversation with, or reaching out on someone's social media posts, trying to explain, trying to link them with information that's from sites I think they wouldn't think as biased, like the AP or Reuters or but even that, I don't know, still does that. But it's important that and I think sometimes people, speaking of mental health, they like being in this situation that they're in of just wanting to be ignorant. I think that's the problem with our society.
100%.
It's like if they would open that as they call Pandora's box and start going down to educate themselves, they'll find out they've been really tricked. And what they've now.
You said the key word. You said the key word.
Mm-hmm.
They will feel tricked, and that's why people have a hard time fucking admit stuff, because as human beings, one of the things we hate doing is going, you know what? Everything I did then I was wrong.
Wrong. Absolutely. So I appreciate that, and I say continue to keep reaching out to your all of your followers and people you come across with that, because that's what it's going to take.
100%. Just so you know, it is not your job to do the emotional labor to educate these people. Google exists, and it's not that fucking hard to Google this shit and read about history and see that Black people have never been treated equally in this country. Oh, goddamn it. Sorry, my sister was calling me. I'm like, bad time. But that Black people have never been treated equally in this country. And I mean, oh my God.
Just patch her into the call.
Just patch
kick her ass after.
Patch her into the call.
Stop texting me.
Give her the Zoom chat ID.
I'm like, if I put it on airplane mode, it'll go off. But no, but it's just like, it's not that hard to educate yourself. And I've had to have some really hard talks with my family recently. And it's my family. My mom raised me, even though, like, I mean, I wasn't raised specifically in a Catholic household, but I went to Catholic school. My grandma was Catholic. It was just kind of a Christian environment. And I had to have a talk with my mom, because she is the one who raised me to be tolerant. She was the one who raised me to be accepting of everyone and taught me what love is and how to be, love unconditionally. And I had to have a hard talk with her recently about respecting my boundaries on my beliefs and my views. And it was really cool for her to open up and say, well, if you have things to teach me, I'm open. And like, that was like mind blowing. You know what I mean? I was like, okay. So it's like, people right now need to be ready to have the uncomfortable conversations, because they're never going to get any more comfortable. You know what I mean? They're never going to get any better. And educate yourself. Don't rely on your Black friends, your Black family members, Black people that you're friends with online. Do not put them through the shit they've already been put through to have to educate your ass on how to look at these things and how to handle these things and how to be an ally. There are resources out there, and it's really not that hard to just read an article, donate to a cause. But a big thing for me is having the hard talks with the people that are willing to have those talks with me, because if I can help change their viewpoint or help open their eyes a little bit more, then maybe they can help their friends who have their same views as them open their eyes a little bit more and make things better. And
And let me add this: if you're going to ask a Black person and ask questions about concerns, or you're unsure about things, then when we talk to you, listen. Listen. Stop trying to tell me how you feel and what you see, and that's not right. If you want to learn, you got to shut up, because you can't live the experience of a Black person if you're not. So this is the time where you listen, and you will learn. and get out of the idea of no, it's just what I believe or what I've been told. That's where I see a lot of the mistakes come from.
And it also goes too for for us men. I think a lot of us need to start, having an honest conversation with women. Like, let me analyze what are things that I say in common phrase. Are these things that can be viewed as inappropriate, make you uncomfortable? Because it's not, and there's something I hear a lot of males say, and I can understand why the initial thought is that way. But I went through that when I was 22, because growing up, I used to say, oh, that's gay. That's gay. Until I had a friend who we were all friends in the same circle. And she invited some of her friends from, it wasn't labeled as LGBTQ community, but at the time she had friends and we all got together. And I had said something just commonly and innocently, oh, that's gay. And it put her in a situation where she had to check me. You see what I'm saying? And I got defensive at first. I was like, I don't mean no ill intent by it. But then I started having a conversation with that community, and I did. And I like to talk a lot. I shut the fuck up. And I listened. And I then was able to gain empathy of how they feel. And that's what it needs to be with men, with women, with people who have questions about Black Lives Matter. And we need to start having that as a regulatory conversation, even outside of these topics that are arising right now. Because what this world is lacking is empathy.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're all lacking it. And we need to learn how to build up stock in that, because we're not going to see any changes, and we're not doing it so much for right now. We need to do it for our next kids, for your kids, Sarah, for my kids, for Impact's kids, for the next generation coming up. This world is pretty fucking upside down. I don't know if it's Stranger Things as of lately or what, but I don't want my kids experiencing this shit.
I don't
when
either.
They get older.
Yeah, it's so funny that you just said that. My son just woke up from his nap, and he's standing at our sliding door, and he's like, "Mama!" So as you're talking, I was looking over. I'm like, "Hi, hi, sweetie boy. Hold on a second, okay?" He just turned 2.
Oh,
he's so cute. He looks. Hold on. I'm like, he's my twin. Hold on, real quick. Come here. Can I say hi? Hello. Can you say hi?
Exclusive.
Say hi,
hello.
everyone.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. He's like, no, I want to get down and play in the dog's water bowl. No, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
No.
But that's what it's about, though. That's what it's about.
Okay, sorry.
I would have loved to hear his opinions on all these topics.
His favorite word right now is no, so he would have just grabbed me and gone, no. Oh, he's doing it right now, actually.
Oh.
It's okay. He wasn't due to wake up until 4:30, but it happens.
It sure does. I get you on that one.
Well, we definitely let's definitely pick up like DJ said in maybe a week or two here, so we can kind of cover some other things, because like DJ said, you have a lot of experience and a lot of interesting stories, and apparently DJ's phone's going off.
No, it was mine too.
Oh, okay. But we appreciate this. I think this is such an important thing that these discussions, they're not easy to have, and the dynamic of change is actual changing, whereas I think what happens is that we like to advocate for change, but not reflectively.
We don't want to do the work.
Yeah.
And that's, I think it's so important to destigmatize these discussions, make them not taboo anymore, make them the norm.
Absolutely. A final word, if you have one, Sarah, before we wrap up. Is there a final thought? And also, after that final thought, If you could definitely let people know of your social media so they can follow you and get to know who you are and what you've been doing. And I'll tell you, the little guy, the pictures that you got recently in the in the mirror, I just love the fact that he had a Motorhead shirt on.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm like, you don't know who these bands are, but
You will.
But I'm going to put them on you anyway. So he's got a killer band t-shirt collection. We're actually saving them, and we're working on a little mini vest for him right now.
Awesome.
So his name is Nixon. So Fleetwood Mac is one of my favorite bands, and we thought we were having a girl. We were going to name her Stevie. Found out it was a boy, had to think of a name, and I was like, well, we could name him Nix, but I didn't want to spell it like Nick because I didn't want people calling him Nick. So we were like Nixon, and then we can call him Nix. So his jacket says Little Nix on the back, and he's got like a mom and a dad patch and all sorts of fun band patches. And he's he loves music though. He's gonna be a wrestler too, because that kid hears that intro to WWE and he goes nuts and runs to the TV and he stands right in front of it and he goes, oh, and he's so excited. He loves wrestling and he tries to wrestle us. And he's got some pretty sweet moves. So, I mean, yeah, he's someone to look out for in the future. I know he's only 2, but he's going to start training as soon as he can. We'll have him in gymnastics, martial arts, all sorts of stuff, getting him ready.
You know, and the coolest thing about that in general, too, is that regardless of what he chooses to do in life, those are great grounds for learning things.
Discipline.
Yep. Exactly.
Discipline, drive, structure. Kids thrive with the structure. I could go on for days about this too. I work in childcare on my normal day-to-day job, but kids thrive with structure and routine, and they need that consistency. So.
Well, I can tell you're doing it because you said he wasn't due to wake up till 4 o'clock, which means he has regular
I sleep trained that kid as soon as I could. I was like, listen, we are going to be on a schedule. Mm-hmm. So.
All right, Sarah, final words. Any thoughts, final words?
Oh, I encourage, anyone who's tuning in to, if they have a story of their own, to share it. And if you need support, message me. I am not unaccessible. I've got followers, I've got a platform, but I am definitely very approachable. And I would love to be an ear or give some advice if I can, or just be, like I said, an ear for someone who needs to tell their story. I've got some great resources too. If you have any trauma that you need to deal with, if you need mental health resources, I can definitely point you in some different directions. But I really think it's important to not be afraid to speak your truth, not be afraid to live your truth. And I really hope that there's some big changes made in the wrestling industry and community to make it a safer place for everyone. And that includes not just women, but Black wrestlers. And, our wrestlers that are in the LGBTQ plus community as well. I really hope it just becomes a safer space for all, because it's not just a man's game anymore.
And what are your social
media? Yeah. So on Instagram, I am Sarah Rochelle Bane. That's my modeling, kind of my normal life stuff. We also have an Instagram that's The Bastions. And that is where we showcase, so we buy, trade, and sell vintage wrestling merchandise, collectibles. And hopefully next time we talk, I'll do it inside and I'll show you guys some of our collection, because our house is ridiculous. But so The Bastions is where we showcase, I post some of my cosplays on there. We always feature like live events that we go to on there, or conventions that we go to. And we post a lot of our collection. Some of it's for sale, some of it is not, but we use that kind of to navigate all of that. On Twitter, I am Sarah Bane 666, and that's where I post a lot of my stuff that I can't post on Instagram because family follows me on Instagram, and so that's where I post and promote my OnlyFans. I have an OnlyFans too. That is onlyfans.com/Mrs. Bastion. Bastion is kind of like the name we use for wrestling related stuff, and on there I do, it's nothing explicit. It's a lot of like glamour, sexy pinup stuff. I do a few cosplays as wrestlers. We can talk about that next time too. I actually have a Undertaker one that I'm hopefully going to be done within the next week.
Awesome.
It's actually going to be for a burlesque performance as the Dead Man. So that'll be really fun.
I would just love to hear Mark Calloway's, like, it's an Undertaker burlesque number, Mark.
Yeah.
I would
Right?
just love to see that. Yeah, it's like,
I
would it
think
just
he'd be
blow his?
into it.
Yeah. Oh, I think he'd love it, but it would
Yeah.
just be like, wow. Because you think about that. Here's a character that was created, 30 years ago, that still is inspiring some kind of creativity by other people. It's amazing.
And back to like what we were saying about the person, not the character. I love the character. And that's where I'll leave that.
Awesome. Well, that's a perfect way to end it, because we've hit the time limit. The bell is ringing. The ref is counting us out, and we are tapping. So thank you again, Sarah, for joining us. Everyone, thank you for listening. Continue to support us. Download, please, and subscribe to the Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. And until next time, it's Matt Michaels saying goodbye, everybody.
Perfect.
That was fun.
See, you're a natural.